So, according to you, in either one of these two cola cans, there is poison. Now, I bet you're thinking I'm gonna drink this left one because I'm a dominant left-handed, but you probably were thinking that, so I'm gonna drink out of this right one. Unless you were deliberately thinking I was gonna drink out of the right one because I thought the left-handed one was going to be poisoned because I'm a dominant left-handed, so I will now drink out of the left one. But you thought about that first, so more or less I will now drink out of the right one because you thought I was gonna drink out of the left one because you thought I was gonna drink out of the right one in order to drink out of the left one because I am a dominant-handed.
Bro, just drink the fucking drink.
I will not be played by you. I more or less am the smartest person around. I have more or less manipulated people for years to come.
Hello again, welcome to another Toku Ramblings. It's time to cover the Go Busters movies, or I should be more specific, the trio of Go Busters movies plus Superhero Taisen. And yes, the OG original Superhero Taisen movie, and it's not good. It's really not good. It's probably the worst, just not as bad as Kamen Rider Taisen. They both do. I'd say, yeah, I think Kamen Rider Taisen is the worser film just because I think the plot's just worse and the characters are just treated more poorly, but this is not far off. So this was made in celebration of the 35th and 40th anniversary of Rider, and unsurprisingly focuses on the anniversary. Three characters of the Go-Kaigers and Deck. Okay, though they're evil now. Okay, more specifically, Tsukasa has decided to revive Daishocker to now kill all the Riders because, while Marvelous chooses to revive the Zongyak to kill all the Riders because. So now their allies attempt to figure out why they have less chosen to follow this path. Okay, I say allies, but really, it's only two characters from each side. Right. Joe and Doc from the Go-Kaigers, and then Daiki, paired with, of all people, Hina Izumi from O. It's like, I don't hate the character, I really do like her, but of all the people to pair Daiki with, I mean, I guess either Natsumi or Yusuke's actors from Decade might have been busy, so this was probably the next best choice, but it's just so odd, to say the least. And that is the plot. Though I really wouldn't call it a plot, but more just something to string along the numerous action scenes this movie has. And that's the best way to describe this film. It's just a whole bunch of action scenes with some exposition to tell us how the characters are feeling and or doing for a majority of it. And it is, at times, mind-numbingly boring. It just feels like we're on a trip of just action scene, and there's just no end for it. Like, yes, it's nice to see Rider v Sentai combat because there's such differences between the two, but there's really no good interactions between the Riders and the Sentai. I mean, yes, Joe and Daiki do end up kind of having this sort of weird thing since both of their friends have sort of become these evil genocidal psychopaths, but it's just not particularly the most interesting kinds of things. About the only interesting thing is just the Deno cameo that happens, but yeah, despite the fact that this is such a big crossover event for stuff, the cameos are not plenty. I.e., the only real representation from both sides is that the Go-Kaigers and the Go Busters, and then the Rider portion gets a bit more because there's Forze, Decade, and then O's for like a But Go Busters and Forze basically disappear after the beginning of the film, which is not shocking because of what these films would end up doing, as we've seen. Right? And then Eiji just gets killed alongside both first, and we're left with Hina. It feels so weirdly low-key. Okay, even later films feel like they're trying a bit more with it, besides just showing suits. This barely feels like a... This feels more like just a... This could have easily just been a Go-Kaiger versus Decade film, maybe featuring the current writers, but... Yeah, that's it. Again, it clearly wasn't story was the big thing, the spectacle of all of it, and... Yeah, there are some decent things, especially at the end with the big old Rider Sentai versus the big villain things, and, it's surprisingly a really great shot. It is every single Sentai and Rider up to that point, and there are some interesting things used, like the Riders using the Ghost Agers cards, specifically the ones who use cards for their thing. There's decent team-ups between the specific teams who teamed up with one. However, it's all really good. Such a thing, but it's also so spoiled by kind of a really bad, out of nowhere plot twist. Because shocker. Marvelous and Tsukasa are not evil, and they were just trying to destroy the remnants of both organizations, and turns out everyone didn't die. They were just in some kind of other dimension, time. I don't remember. I was kind of glowing out here as they now proceed to try to fight the combined forces of Zongyak and Dai. Shocker. And in the middle of all this, Daiki's now evil. Why? Because Tsukasa more or less didn't tell him, and more or less he's being a butthurt lover. So now he takes control of their big robot, which I think is called... Big Machine. Wow, really couldn't come up with anything greater than that, huh? Just... Big Machine. The Go Busters form their giant mech and fight it for a bit, and then Kengo shows up now with a switch that apparently is compatible with Go Busters. Oh, and now the Go Busters plus 4 they team up to take on Big Machine. Oh, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Red Buster, Blue Buster, and Forze go up to fight Big Machine, since Yoko got kicked out, and, well, it's a three-person cockpit, so, she's kind of out of luck. Here's the issue with it. The whole Daiki now being evil. Not watching Daiki before, I have no idea, but this isn't a good introduction to him. He comes up as a dick who more or less just decides to betray their heroes because it's just a one-up of Tsukasa and the idea of 4D chess, and this entire film feels like you have to be capable of 4D chess to best understand it. It's nothing more than a spectacle for the eyes that sadly kind of gets boring as it goes on. About the only thing the film has going for it is Yuki Mada as Joe Gibkin, who actually shows some decent dimensions as an actor. They're trying to understand why his friend is going through this, and despite how much it feels lifeless, the interactions he does share with Daiki are actually interesting, but yeah, this is not a good movie. It's not even a movie in my opinion. It's just a bunch of action scenes just smushed together because of it and jangled in front of your face in hopes that you will more or less not care. Here. For how meddling, for how uninspired that inspired GP3 feels, I still would say this is the second worst Taisen just after Kamen Rider Taisen. It's not particularly too interesting, and it barely feels like a celebration of anything. In a way, you can also consider it an insult for just how little is truly done. And while not every issue I had is fixed, the following one does feel like a better celebration of Rider and Sentai. And Metal Heroes too, but that's a story for another day. After that, we have our standard 30-minute before Rider film movie, Protect Tokyo Enter Tower, which is totally not a commercial for the Tokyo Tower in any way. Yes, they have a big old photo shoot right at the end and showing off how cool and amazing the Tokyo Tower is, and that would be bad if anything bad happened to it, and I don't have a building, but I just think the Tokyo Tower looks really cool. Anywho, that's the film, of course, centers around the newly outfitted Tokyo Enter Tower, which of course Enter wants to steal for obvious reasons. When they go to try and fight him, the new droid he is using causes the buddy droids to rest over, leaving them in sort of a chance they can't use the Zords. So now they've got to come up with a way to stop Enter from stealing the tower and most of the people into hyperspace. It's a filler episode. So that's the best way to describe this. It's bigger. It feels bigger in the way that it looks a little prettier, but most of but this is probably one of the more uninteresting summer films. There's nothing too stand out about it, despite Go Busters being one of the more unique seasons of the franchise. There is some decent action, like with Go Buster, with the new Frog Zord I can't remember the name of right now, and Enter in a Mega Zord, which would end up doing a couple of times in the show itself, but yeah, it's a standard Sentai summer film. New Zord, slightly higher stakes, and basically a warm-up for Forzay's movie. Yeah, Forzay's movie was what came out around this point. It's worth a watch, I could say. But let's get to the fun thing. The Go Kaiju crossover, which more or less starts with the Go Kaiju Sans guy now evil for some reason. Anywho, they're working with a newly revived Zonyuk, now led by Baka Skills, who has also allied himself with Enter to search for the Phantom Ranger keys, which hold the power to let you do whatever you want. Anyway, the Red Phantom key opens up a whole bunch of time portals, which transports everyone but Hiromu, Ryuji, Nick, and Usada for some reason. Then, and after a cameo that is actually kind of neat, they set out to begin their rescue plan. So, look, let's get the obvious issue out of the way. The reuse of evil Gokai just kind of falls flat as a big, shocking twist outside the fact that instead of it only being marvelous, now it's everyone sans Guy and Navi, but it mostly gets over that twist to reveal that they're just helping them because they kind of got beaten pretty hard and lost lost to Gokai Galleon, so they really didn't have a choice. This is a surprisingly, like, snappy movie. After establishing what needs to be done, we immediately set off for a whole bunch of time-traveling shenanigans, including Toei's favorite Edo era set, because we gotta get the most out of that thing whenever it can be used. Yes, and it might be a bit of a Deus Ex Machina for Kaoru to just show up to reveal that where they need to go. But since this is Gokaiger, some anniversary elements felt natural. Sadly, one of the things that is taken from Gokaiger, which I don't think was a really good choice to bring back, is the villains. Enter basically takes the back seat to Bacchus Gil, who is not particularly that interesting. An angry alcoholic who just wants to destroy the earth, and that's it. If it weren't for the Gil last name, he probably could have just been some upstart who just wanted to revive the Zongyak Empire. And his subordinate exists. That's the most I can for it. But besides that, this is honestly a really solid versus movie in my opinion. One, I like the Gokaiger's return, and still kind of more or less in that early portion, showing very cocky selves, but clearly caring for the world, and they're just, again, such a joy to see. This is always a fun cast to see come back whenever they can. But honestly, the real stars of this are the buddy wise, who get a surprisingly really good use in this film. Both as partners to the heroes, but also they're also in helping. It's the most useful I think they've been in the entire show, and the climax. Max is really, really touching him. Why, and the acting is also really, really solid. Best shown in here, and I really, really like the Kyoryu sneak preview. It's quite probably one of the funniest moments, because it's just Kyoryu Red standing, "We're here to help you guys," and then Hiromu and Marvelous are just standing down there and like, "What do you mean, we? I only see a you." And he just looks around at himself and he's like, "Guys?" It's legitimately a funny scene, or maybe it's also a bit harsher considering how apparently red-centric Kyoryuger would end up being, but I think it's a good way to set up this team, and that it's probably going to be a bit more different from the standard fare here, seeing as they're not not getting together immediately. And then there's the big cameo of previous Zord used in the final fight via the power of the Go Busters' hidden power, because this season was also sort of a power There's not, so more or less Megazords do that. I don't know if that was the plan, but we get the uses of some old previous Zords, which not gonna lie, this feels like a weird coincidence that the mecha besides CB01 being Yu Ranger, Gao Ranger, Maji Ranger, and Boken, for the Sentai ties used for Zen Ranger. I don't know if this was done on purpose or not, but that was a weird thing. That was a weird thing to know since I was watching that about this time. But yeah, this is one of the better ones. It's a very bare bones plot plot with some villains, but in the same way of Go Busters have getting its greater moments at the end, and it is full of those later memorable, emotional, funny moments that I think helped to push it to be one of the better ones. I don't think it's a 199 or a Go Sager versus Shinkenger, but this was an enjoyable time. And this brings us to our last film, Tokume Sentai Go Busters Returns versus Dobuto Sentai Go Busters Returns, which is a alternate look into what Go Busters could have been if it was more tradition. So on New Year's Eve, mysterious new threat attacks, one that's not picked up by the sensors and lacking enter. The Go Busters go to face it, only for the monster to cripple. The swords introduce themselves as the great demon lord Azazel, and kills them. Yep, the Go Busters are dead. Then, they've been killed, right then and there. Oh, that was a short movie. Okay, now. Nick wakes up in heaven and learns from God, who, despite looking like Enter, is not Enter, is that he is the millionth deputy. You're just beating beat and earns a wish of his choice. That's not killing Azazel, obviously. So he ends up wishing that the events that changed everyone's life 13 years ago didn't happen. That Messiah didn't exist. Yes. God obliges him and he wakes back up all the way in the first episode where with a different continent. Hiromu is now a teacher training at the EMC College Agricultural High School. Ryuji is the PE teacher and a lot more hot-blooded. Yoko is a student. Jin is the dirty, disgusting groundskeeper, also assisted by Jay. Jay and the entire EMC crew are now the principal and his respective assistant. Of course, this peaceful new existence doesn't last long, as it turns out a new threat surfaces as creating the Dobuto Sentai Go Busters. The story, what story is there? Yes, Go Busters Returns is more just a series of vignettes of a series that could have been, as it jumps across the multiple episodes. As from Ryuji and Hiromu having a good old fist fight in order to sell differences to become friends, the introduction of his new Sixth Ranger, and then later an episode about his death, Kuroki coming to help in their greatest time of need, which, not gonna lie, when I saw, transformation, in, compilations, of, extra Rangers and 6 heroes, when it got to the Go Busters portion, I thought Kuroki was more or less essentially a Japanese Hitler. I don't know why I thought he was that, but, seeing that I was, that is, I don't think that, yes, and stuff less Hiromu's sister is apparently peak cat in this universe, because big plot twists are always a big thing. That, and how much you find this funny is gonna be subjective. The film takes Showa and early Heisei cliches and pushes them to their ridiculous degree. And your knowledge of that stuff may also sort of that. People who more or less aren't familiar with early Sentai stuff might not be familiar with the whole usage of sports balls for finishers like this season does. As used. But despite that I do think a lot of the jokes do land here. Stuff like Ryuji now being the hot-blooded big guy instead of acting like the cool older brother. Is interesting. interesting. Some are a lot harder in terms of character changes. Yoko still kind of feels pretty much the same, and Jay is also basically the same character. Cat's always interrupting me. I don't know why I even sometimes try to record unless I kick. But like, one of the jokes is that Beat is basically the exact same. Because everyone sort of gets some modifications to their suit. Specifically, the visors are less sunglasses and more the standard black and kind of looks like an animal's face. But he is basically the same major regard. Which sort of makes... Which... yeah. Remember to cut out those sneezes. Yes. So, some of the comedy also just comes from Nick's big confusion about a lot of the things that are happening, sort of like an outside can observe, but, yeah, the big star seal of this is Jay in regards to this. They just let him do whatever he wants. Whether he's in the focus or the back. Yeah. Whether he's in the focus or the back, he's always doing something that's just kind of, that's cute. That's a little, oh. Thanks. I don't really want to spoil too many of the jokes because I actually do think this is something you should really watch if you didn't enjoy Go Buster. There's Green Hippo's death is so over the top, and then Pink Cat just being again Hiromu's sister, just sort of this weird thing. Like, this could have easily just come off as malicious, like they wanted to spite the fans for not enjoying it, but it weirdly feels like it's coming from a place of joy. Yes, it goes down. It could have gone down the easy road of just picking stock characters to use. The stoic main hero, the womanizing, the dumb guy who eats a lot, the chick. But the Dobutsu versions of the Sentai are never treated as inferior. Yeah, they get the same power-ups as the main counterparts. The new member who dies is shown that they are completely sad. But this is still treated like they are a Sentai and not just a straight parody. In another world, this was probably someone's team rather than what we ended up getting. Yes, it is all over the top and done as hokey as possible, but it's just from I feel love of the franchise. That being said, the villains are not great. Azazel barely exists. He shows up at the beginning and the end, and because for some reason it never crossed Nick's mind that just because there was no Messiah didn't mean that Azazel wouldn't show up. I mean, he didn't have Enertron in him, so that feels like a weird thing. But yeah, he's a generic Doomsday villain, and the new villains introduced for the film are meh. Again, they're not the real focus here. I mean, I guess it's neat that Escape plays one of the main generals, or I think the main one, which is neat. But again, the bigger threat here is Azazel, and he's generic Doomsday who shows up and is basically so the teams can kind of fight together right at the end. And then again, I think does show lack of militia. That's because they could have just had the main team show up and outshow their animal Sentai counterparts, but they don't. And I think that really is something. I think that helps distinguish this from a malicious parody to one that feels like it's a joyous parody and send off to early Sentai, even though they were going to keep doing the early stuff. this is a lot of things. It's the last send-off for the Go Busters, unless you count the Kyoryuger movie where they more or less reappeared at the crossover, but I don't. It's a vignette of a series that could have been. It's funny, it's endearing, and it's probably the best return movie of the ones I've seen so far. There's no plot or anything, but that's not a bad thing in this case. So yeah, that's everything from the Go Busters era. Well, it seems like more or less I'm going to be surprisingly on point because next time we are covering its sister show from around this time. So, as always, do the usual things that apparently keep me in the YouTube algorithm and happy, and we'll see you around.